Hello everybody. So today I'm going to be talking about these two books. I'm going to be doing a book review, talking about these two recent thrillers, both by Rachel Hawkins. And first we're going to talk about The Wife Upstairs, and then we're going to talk about Reckless Girls. They're both pretty similar. This was published January 2021. This was published January 2022, so they're both pretty recent books, both thrillers, both Book of the Month books. And yeah, so we're going to kind of talk about how they're similar, a little bit about both of them, and my review of both of them. So they're both kind of similar because they're both based off of classic novels. So the first one, Wife Upstairs, if you've read Jane Eyre, you can tell that that's what this is about. Just by the title, it's a remake of Jane Eyre. And then Reckless Girls is supposed to be an Agatha Christie remake. I'm not exactly sure which novel it's based on because there's no information about it, but that's what it's said in the description. That's what it says from the author, but it doesn't give exactly which book it is. Some people speculate that it might be based off And Then There Were None, but there's a lot of differences between the two, so I'm not sure 100% which book, but it's an Agatha Christie modeled book. So besides that, they're both similar because obviously they both have the same author, but they're also both by they have women narrators and protagonists that are kind of telling the stories in both these novels, so that's something else that's similar between the two of them. So starting with Wife Upstairs, once again, here's the book itself. The book, just a little synopsis, spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about what happens in both of them. This book is about a girl named Jane Eyre, who moves to the South after running away from like some big secret, and she becomes a dog walker in this fancy neighborhood, eventually sees this man, starts dating him, finds out he's recently widowed in this big wealthy neighborhood, big huge house, and his wife's like this big celebrity. Her and her best friend have gone like missing, supposedly dead. They've only found one body after like a mishap at their lake house, so it's kind of an interesting plot, and as you probably can guess, Wife Upstairs, how it ends. The rating I would give it, when I read it, I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads, just because I think that there's a lot of great twists and turns in this book, but I mean the title's kind of giving away the biggest plot point, and so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, and because it's explicitly said like in the description of the book and like online everywhere that it's a remake of Jane Eyre. If you read Jane Eyre, you know how that ends. So it's kind of like you know what's gonna happen pretty much, and you're just waiting for it to happen. But I did enjoy the ending, but I kind of just found the main character a little bit unlikable and didn't love any of the characters. Whereas in the original Jane Eyre, like I loved the characters, and I thought that the plot was just so much more of a twist because I didn't know what was going to happen, whereas this, I knew it as I was expecting. So overall, I think this one is great. I think this is the better one of the two, but if you've read Jane Eyre, it's kind of what I was comparing it the whole time. So it just couldn't live up to me reading Jane Eyre for the first time because I knew it was going to happen. So that's one of my favorite books ever. So I still like this one, but it was not the best book I've ever read. 3 out of 5. So moving on to Reckless Girls. This book is kind of centering around like a 20-something girl who recently moved to Hawaii with her boyfriend. She's kind of had like a lot of trauma and was like living a really boring life, so decides after she meets this boy to move to Hawaii and sail around the world with him. And these two young girls find them and meet them and say, we want to pay you to take us on your boat to go to this deserted island that we've heard about. And so the group goes, they meet other people that are there, that are already on the island, and it kind of, takes this whole new environment. They build this whole relationship, it becomes a community, and the group, as you can expect, unravels. There's fights, there's drama, there's death, until there's like only one person left, which is kind of just like so stereotypical, like abandoned island, like Lord of the Flies. Same thing with And Then There Were None. Like that's kind of just, I don't know what I was expecting, but also not what I was expecting. So I gave this book on Goodreads a 2 out of 5 because I think there were like definitely some unexpected twists in the book, but they all kind of happened near the end, which I don't love because then you're just waiting the whole book and then it's just like all the stuff happens at once. So, and honestly, none of them were like that crazy that I was like, oh my god, this is such an amazing thriller, like so many shocks, like totally took me somewhere I would never go, which is kind of, you know, what Agatha Christie does, but I just don't think this is living up to like her like surprise and shock in that whole atmosphere that she gives to her book. So I thought that was underwhelming. Like when you're both of these books are supposed to be like remakes of classics, and I think it's hard to say that when you're trying to live up to something that's like as big as Agatha Christie being the biggest mystery novel writer ever, and Jane Eyre, which is one of the most classic English novels ever. So overall, I would definitely say they both had good plots, but they could have just been executed a little bit better. They're both centered around kind of unlikable girls. Not that that's anything that's super unusual, but it was just, it's hard to like a book when you don't love the main characters. And they're both kind of centered around these like big secrets, and they kind of were underwhelming once you found out what the actual secrets were and they were uncovered. So I think I just had a hard time liking these both as much as I could have because I was comparing them to other things that I've read that I really loved. So I don't know, but overall I think they both need a little bit more shock in them and bigger twists, or just better twists, to be qualified as mysteries or thrillers or whatever you want to call them. But overall I didn't like dislike either of these, but I just didn't love them both, and I'd heard great things about both of them, so I was kind of had high hopes, and from my own high hopes from those other books, kind of underwhelmed. But I think they both had some really good elements. They just ended up a little bit short. So let me know what you guys think the best thriller you've ever read, or even movie, in the comments, and thanks for watching.